What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a really good Thursday. Sorry, I've been out all day. I've had doctor's appointments all over the place, running around, so I haven't had a chance to really be fully engaged as much as usual today. So I apologize for that. But we are going to talk through tonight's small slates, both NBA and MLB. The MLB slate is far less interesting than the NBA slate to me, but I do think there's a couple ways to get different. So I'll just say what I'm doing. So basically, I don't mind if you want to eat the chalk at pitchers and to play Lopez and Marco Gonzalez. I think you can play hitters against them. I think that it's a small enough slate where it's totally fine. This is probably right where you'd want to be doing it. If I was going to play another pitcher, it would probably be Jordan Hicks. Maybe I could consider Taylor Hearn, but again, you're not saving that much from Gonzalez. So I probably would go down to Jordan Hicks if I was going to go any which way. But those would be the pitchers that I'm rotating through. And then the easy way to try to treat these slates is like, even if we're playing Lopez, you could actually play a mini stack against him because the Cardinals are going to be really low owned. And Lopez is the best pitcher on the slate, but he and Marco are pretty close, I guess. But I think that it's a completely viable route to both play St. Louis and Texas bats, even if we're playing the pitcher on the other side. Now, you're going to have some popular bats in the Texas side. Seager should be owned. Simeon should be owned. Garver should be owned. Adolis should be owned. But everybody else won't be. My favorites of the rest of them would probably be Solak and Lowe, assuming they're in the lineup. And then for the St. Louis side of it, I think Arenado is going to be crazy low owned, and I would probably take a shot on playing him as a one-off or maybe do a two-man with him and either DeYoung, somebody else who's low owned like that, because you really are playing game theory at this point. If you're playing baseball, you're not trying to hit the best possible plays because that's everybody knows who they are. Of all the Cubs, the one who's going to be lowest owned will probably be Patrick Wisdom, assuming that, he is batting eighth. I would go ahead and take a shot on Patrick Wisdom batting eighth, even at 4K, if you're not going to play. So no matter what, my third base spot is going to be loaded up with either Arenado or Wisdom just for the ownership sake of it. Just double checking the news here. Nothing new. But anyway, that's where I'm at. Some of the individual hitters that I really like on this slate, some of them are popular, some of them aren't. I like the Cubs side of things the most, but I think the Cubs and Pittsburgh are the two most desirable stacks. I don't think that's anything revolutionary, but that's what I'm doing. Oh, and we do have Sheets. Yeah, Sheets is in here. What's up, Sheets?
Hey, what's going on?
How's it going? Sorry if my face looks a little weird, guys. I got all these little tags from the doctor today, so it's going to look a little funny.
I didn't even notice unless you mentioned it.
Okay, good. I went to my next doctor appointment afterwards. They're like, you should go to a dermatologist. I'm like, I just came from the dermatologist for this part of it because I have some pre-cancerous type of stuff that I had to get worked out. I'm going to say what's up to Rich and what's up to Nick Nelson. Seattle's been good. Go ahead and play Seattle. Sheets, what are you doing on this little slate? We talk about it a lot. This is sort of like these are the game theory play slates, right? You try to just ignore it. You can play two or three guys even against your pitcher and it's fine. What are you doing to try and get a little different here?
Well, to be quite honest, I'm just starting to build now.
Okay.
I was out doing stuff, and I'm just checking the projections now, and I'm just going to just do kind of a Chinese fire drill. But let me see what I come up with my first build, and then we could talk about the plays. I was lucky to even get the projections done for this slate, much less take a look at them.
Yeah.
I guess I'll start with what's I don't even know what the chalk is. So I guess the chalk is Marco Gonzalez and Pablo Lopez.
Yep, by pretty good ways, I think.
All right, so let's get right to it. So who's Mark Leiter?
Mark Leiter Jr. I don't know how long he's going to pitch, to be honest with you. But again, we could say that about a lot of guys on this slate. So you can go ahead and play him. I don't know if my guess is probably 3 innings, maybe 4 if things are going well.
Okay.
I don't think he's anything special, and I don't think this is a spot where I'm probably going to use him. I'm probably going to eat a little of the chalk and then maybe play a little Jordan Hicks, who at least has a good K rate against the Miami team. He won't pitch far either into the game. I don't think he's pitched more than 3 innings in his career in a game. He's pitched 2 in the 2 games he's pitched so far. But even in those 2 games, he put up 12 and 9 fantasy points. You could literally get 10 points from your pitcher tonight and be fine, especially if the guy's 5,800. So the thing I was thinking about doing is even if I play those top guys, I'll take the hitters against them that no one's playing. So no matter what, at third base, for example, there's basically only two guys. Actually, I guess I would throw Toro into the mix because I don't think he'll be especially high owned. But everyone's going to play Suarez. I think VR is going to be popular. I want to play. I'll play the best hitter on the slate, or the best hitter at third base, and that's Nolan Arenado, who's going to be low owned because of Lopez on the other side and because of his price. Or I will play Patrick Wisdom, who will also be low owned because he's batting at the bottom of the Cubs order. And I would do it outside of a Cubs stack and only have like a 2 or a 3 man if I was going to do that, because I would like to get the low ownership and have it solo myself. That's sort of my first way of trying to get different, is to try to get these the good hitters in against the matchup against the pitchers that we want, but they aren't going to be owned because of it. So I think that the best thing to do is to play these low owned guys where you can, and then eat the chalk that you like a little bit better. The Ian Happs of the world, and let's see who Marcus Semien, Suzuki, Contreras. You can mix in these. You can play some of these guys, but I wouldn't want to play like 4 guys at 40% or higher as a hitter unless I was playing at least 2 or 3 guys that were below 10%, which is going to be hard to find on this slate.
Well, what's kind of cool is that you can talk about all the different pitchers because there are only 6 of them. Do you have any interest in me? I guess the third highest owned is probably going to be Taylor Hearn, right?
Yeah. And just because there's no real difference between he and you could play he with Marco or something and then skip Lopez or something like that. But I wouldn't be trying to play him instead of Marco very much. The good question here from Rick: does Wrigley play different at night? Is that a thing? Well, the real thing you're looking for is temperature, humidity, and wind direction, most importantly. The wind is blowing out to right field, so you'd probably be a little bit heavier on the lefties from the Pittsburgh-Chicago game. It's 64 degrees, which is actually fairly nice for this time of year in Chicago, considering we've been looking at like 48-degree. There was one game they played, it was like 29 degrees. So I would be looking to try to get exposure to that game, and I think it's going to be hard to get off of the chalk without playing the very bottom of the orders of both those, which I'm fine with. I'm fine with playing Cole Tucker on one side, on the Pittsburgh side, and I'm fine with playing Patrick Wisdom, who's got immense power on the Cubs side. And I think you're going to get low ownership on those two. So that's the way I would be trying to treat the slate from a strategy standpoint. And I know there's a bunch of people asking about NBA. We will get to NBA.
We're going to get to the NBA probably in about 3 minutes.
Yeah, it's not going to take very long to get through this baseball stuff. So that's sort of what I'm doing. And again, there's absolutely no need to. You can stack if you want to. Yeah, I think it's viable to stack the Cubs or Pirates, but you don't need to stack it all on this slate.
No, you don't
at all. So take some of the chalk bats that you like, and then mix in the guys that I was talking about for the low value. To me, that's the best way to do it.
All right, so let's talk about the NBA. Screw it.
Okay, let's do it.
Let me see what I'm going to do here. I had a sweat last night. Actually, I had a couple of. I had some chances. Yeah, it didn't quite. Look, 4-game slate's tough to get there, but I would listen. I was rooting with 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That's all you can ask for, right?
Hey, that's a pretty incredible. Yeah, especially right? These 3-gamers. This is kind of a fun 3-gamer though. I'm starting to like the NBA slates better and better, especially when you get the better teams playing on the road. You can get some stuff going. I do think that this feels like a spot where like I didn't post my bets because I've been out literally until about 5 minutes before, I guess, before 6 Eastern. And but I do want to. I will just say them for free right now. I would bet on Memphis to win this game in Minnesota. The 2 points I would be willing to give up, but I think it's a close one either way. And I think that the Dallas-Utah, I think Utah is going to pummel them tonight. I think this is the Utah wins by like 15-30, somewhere in that range. So, and I'm going to use that in my DFS play as well. Just that take. I think this is the one game that Denver might have a chance to get Golden State. If you can, the first game at home, we know that the teams that tend to come out playing their best. The hard thing is with Golden State is just if they've got literally 3 of. Yeah, they had the Splash Brothers sheets. Did you see that? So they had this. The Splash Brothers have been the nickname forever for Klay Thompson and Steph Curry, and they added a guy named Poole to it. It's just kind of a funny thing.
Pretty funny.
So there's all these things online trying to come up with a new nickname for the three of them, because Jordan Poole, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit for a while. That guy he's like a poor man's version of a combo between Steph and Clay. I mean, yeah, he's not as good as those guys, but I mean, actually lately he's been better than everybody. But so that's what I think from a game perspective. I really like Utah to blow Dallas out, or at least beat them by double digits tonight. And I'm going to play Jokic in my main lineup for sure. That part I know that's what I'm 100% doing. Nick Nelson says 70 from Jokic. I agree. At least 70 from Jokic to me.
So what are the scores in these series? So it's 1-1 Minnesota Memphis.
1-1, 1-1, and 2-0 Golden State.
Okay, so Dallas got the win in game 2.
Yeah.
And Minnesota got their win in game 2 as well?
No, Minnesota got killed in game 2. They won game 1.
Minnesota won game 1. And then Golden State Denver is 2-0, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't really have an opinion on the any spread opinions today.
You don't think Utah is going to smash Dallas in this one? Feels like it's smash.
Maybe. I mean, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Could be. I don't really have an opinion.
This game could have been 9.5, and or 10.5 possibly. I would have still probably bet Utah to cover. I really think that they're going to crush them.
Yeah, you just might be right.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about a couple of plays. And these are the guys that are always in play every night on small slates that I don't want to play, but they always just kind of show up. So you have Dorian Finney-Smith and Royce O'Neal. What are your opinions on both of those guys?
Well, both for the same reason I just said. I am lower on them than I would normally be because of I think they're going to be blown out, and I'm going to play that angle. So,
well, if you take that stand, are we going to play Hassan Whiteside?
I don't take it that strong. You're not going to. I mean, even if they're up by after losing game 2 and without Luka there, I don't think they're taking their starters out unless they're up 30 with like 6 minutes to go. And I think it would take 6 minutes to go. So, but again, Whiteside is always in play. Like, I mean, he can do it in 15 minutes. He can put up 35 fantasy points, and he's going to probably play 14, 15 minutes. So, yes, he belongs in the conversation with a couple guys who I like a little better than him. Bjelica. Well, Bjelica is I like the low ownership too. Jaden McDaniels. And then if you're not playing McDaniels, playing Vanderbilt. And then you've got the Kleba, who's now a mid-tier play after hitting 8 threes in the last game. He's a secondary play for me, not a priority. Even I think he's going to be a priority for most. I do like the Clarkson angle though of the blowout because I could see him staying on the court. You know what I mean? So Clarkson is one of the Utah guys that I like quite a bit, and I could see Donovan Mitchell being a very strong play, but he's going to be really popular because he can. I think he'll be the one who leads the blowout. But I'm finding myself with more Conley overall and more Clarkson, not in the same lineups, but than I am with Mitchell just because of the pricing issues. And I like other players in Mitchell's price range. And Nick is asking, to go over the Memphis and Minnesota plays because he's struggling with them. And that's probably what your core is going to be these Minnesota games just because the total and everything like that. My priorities, I'm going to play D'Angelo Russell and bet on him playing better than he has in the first 2 games of this series. That's just what I'm going to do. Again, I think he'll be a little bit lower owned, saves you a little bit of salary. I like Beverly also. You can completely play them together. There's no problem with that, especially on a 3-game slate. And then I have in my main lineup, I have Beverly, Russell, McDaniels, and I have Jaren Jackson, who I absolutely love the play. I'm hoping people get off of it. And then right now he's showing up as not being owned very much. I don't think that's going to be quite the case. I think he'll probably end up somewhere in like the 15 to 20% range. And I'm looking at like 5% owned, but 15 to 20%, I'll take that shot on Jaren Jackson Jr. So that's my little mini game stack for that one. And then other than that, it's going to be a mixture of the Denver, Utah guys, mostly with a little bit of Brunson. I feel a little bit weird, like with the Brunson thing playing. He's 8K. It's totally a reasonable price. He should be projected to be one of the best plays of the slate. Even when he struggled in game 1, he still put up 39.75 fantasy points, which is fine. He put up 65 in the last game, obviously. And I like him. I might want to rebuild a little bit because I don't really love the idea of playing that chalk if I'm going to play the blowout angle. Because if it does blow out badly, I don't know that Brunson gets his full fourth quarter run, which I think he might need if they're getting blown out, because that means he's probably doesn't have 40 points already like he did last time. Sorry, go ahead.
What do you think of Draymond Green on this play tonight?
Why D'Lo? No, by the way, D'Lo has the best point per dollar of any player on this team against this Memphis team throughout the season. Actually, throughout 2 seasons now in a row. So don't play him if you don't want to. I'm playing him. What did you say, Sheets?
What do you think of Draymond Green as a play tonight?
I think he's fine. He's a worse play to me than Jaren Jackson Jr., but I think he's fine.
Okay.
I like Wiggins. He's like a perfect mid-tier, you don't want to go out of your way to try to get him in, but sort of fits in, and he's cheap enough, and he's going to play the minutes, and has enough of a role to where he doesn't have to do much to get there. I like Draymond though too. I mean, I don't think Draymond's a bad play by any means. I just am siding with Jaren Jackson Jr. mostly because the game and the game environment. It's a pretty good game environment in Denver as well, but I just sort of like the idea of going that way. But I do like Draymond. I think you could play Draymond and Jaren Jackson Jr. I don't think that's going to be an overly popular combination.
I'll tell you who I think I might fade tonight. I think I might fade Mr. Kleber tonight.
Yeah, I don't think that's a big fade. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Nick is pointing out that, look, because he hasn't played 30 minutes in 2 games. By the way, throw out game 2. Okay, when you're down by 30 in the fourth, in the whatever quarter it was, the third quarter, fourth quarter, don't even look at the minutes in that one. He wasn't, and the bench mob was killing it game 1. So you can't just look at numbers and say, oh, he hasn't played 30 minutes. What a terrible play. That's just not the way this game works. You're even in the playoffs. Mostly you're going to get your best players playing more minutes. But if the bench goes on a run, you will see teams leave them out there the entire time. A great example of this, the best example, was Harden a few years back when he was with the Rockets. They were down 26 going into the fourth quarter against the Clippers. They come back to win the game, and Harden never re-enters the game in the entire quarter. And that was clearly by far and away their best player. So that's going to happen sometimes. The bench is going to go off, and they're not going to bring the starters back in when the bench is going off. So that's why I'm dropping it in there. I'm not saying it's a lock of some sort of the Russell, but because people are thinking, hopefully, like Nick is, that maybe Russell gets a little bit lower ownership than his teammates. And I think he will get a significantly lower ownership than both Towns and Edwards. I do think Towns is a really strong play, for what it's worth. And your long shot hero play is Xavier Tillman. I know that he got the blowout run in the last game. There's different paths for him to get there, for him to get some run. I don't think it's a good play. It's literally if you're just trying to win the one of the 150s or something like that. But just wanted to throw that one out there as another one to get weird with. Yeah. So
what do you think of Bones Highland?
Yeah, I think that's a really good gamble. Especially with the game being back there. I prefer, I'm playing Morris. I forgot to mention that, but I'm playing Morris everywhere. I think he's like 4,700. I'm just going to play him. He and Jokic are my main nuggets, but I have no problem if you want to play Bones Highland, and hope you get one of the good Bones games. And I like Brandon Cruz in the chat with a good question here about Curry. So the issue I have is that they're going to keep things the same. They're going to play. This is a better spot, though, because you think the game should stay a little closer. Steph Curry has played 21 minutes and 22 minutes in the last 2 games. He did put up 50 fantasy points in 22 minutes in the last game. He was 12 of 17 from the floor, which is pretty awesome for a guy who's taking his shots. I think he's going to be low owned. I love the tournament angle. I personally am not getting there, but I think Steph Curry and Jordan Poole are the 2 guys who I'm sort of, if my lineup was really chalky and I had some, I wanted to try and do something, I would consider both of them a lot. And you could throw Clay into the mix as well, but Clay's going to have a little more ownership just because his price makes him a little more gettable on DraftKings. But I like the idea of the Steph play. I don't think there's any guarantee. I don't think they're not going to run him out there a bunch more minutes coming off of the injury. This is not like the series that's going to happen. That might happen in the next series when they really feel threatened. I don't think they've had anything to feel threatened by Denver. So even if they're threatened tonight, will they let Curry play more minutes? I don't really think so, to be honest with you. They just haven't needed to. So I think you're going to see 28 to 30 minutes maximum out of Curry. I don't think there'll be more than that. But again, weird things happen, so could always be wrong. But that's just what I've got. If the series was 1-1, I would be much more into the Curry play than I am that they're up 2-0.
Got one more value play to run by you, and this is dangerous because he could play 8 minutes like he did last game. But you want to take a flyer on Jared Vanderbilt?
I already mentioned him. Yeah, I said I'm going to play McDaniels number 1, and then if not McDaniels, I'll play Vanderbilt.
Okay,
as my saver. I'm gonna address it. I like what Joanne's saying. Gary Payton III is I think a really good sneaky play. Also, you want to find some of these 3K guys, right? For multiple reasons. One, because we need the value. That's the most important reason. The other reason, though, is that we need to find a way to get low ownership somewhere on these small slates. Gary Payton is absolutely viable for that. I'm going to side with Bjelica because he's a better point per minute producer, and he's probably going. He feels like he has a very secure somewhere from, I don't know, 13 to 18 minutes. And I'll take 16 fantasy points. I don't care. I don't need all of the points. I just want to take him. But I have no problem if you wanted to do something different and play Gary Payton. These are going to be the low-owned guys. These are the guys you can use. Gary Payton III. Again, I would take the game he had in game 2. He put up 16 fantasy points. He put up 13 in game 1. What's the difference is I don't know that he's going to play all the minutes if the game is close, if it's tight. I do think Bjelica will get some run whether the game's tight or not, because they really are fading. Like Looney is sort of a little bit of an afterthought in this series. Draymond's done a good job, really, really good job guarding Jokic. And Draymond, when we say no one can guard him, there's the guy who's probably the best guy to guard him. And Draymond is, he might be the best guy to guard everybody, but
right.
He's done just a great job on him. But I do think that there is some argument. And also, if he gets into foul trouble or something, or if Golden State, for any reason, finds himself behind at certain points, and I can just see Bjelica getting like, the guy makes a couple threes for you, you're probably going to get there easily. And he's going to have some opportunities because Jokic doesn't guard away from the basket well. So I do like the idea of playing some Bjelica a little bit ahead of Payton, but I like the Payton idea as well. I think you're wanting to mix some of these guys in everywhere.
So your favorite of those two whatchamacallit, Minnesota guys, you prefer McDaniels to Vanderbilt, but basically it's one or the other?
I prefer McDaniels to Vanderbilt. I don't think you need to play one or the other, but that's sort of your decision price point, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And both of them make a little more sense than some of the other guys that feel a little more reachy to me, because they at least have their role. We've seen some weird things happen in the playoffs so far. I mean, Memphis with the big pivot, and Steven Adams played 3 minutes in the last game. You know what I mean?
Did he really?
Yeah.
How?
It's not a good matchup for Steven Adams.
But how did it happen? I mean, did he start?
Started 2.8 minutes. Yeah. He'll play more minutes tonight. I don't even know if he had a bang up early on, but then Memphis was just crushing them with all their other guys. I didn't see every minute of the game. I know they had Tillman come in, and Tillman played really well. They like to use Jaren Jackson at the 5. They can play Brandon Clark at the 5 in certain spots, or at least at the 4, and have Jackson as the 5. So they just have a lot of bodies that they could use out there. And Karl Anthony Towns couldn't do anything with these other guys. He actually had a better game the first time against Adams. Adams is a very good defender, but not a guy who's going to come away from the basket. And as we know, Towns, I always say, Towns is the best shooting center in the history of basketball. That sounds like a bold statement. Look at the numbers. There's nobody really that close. Unless you want to call Dirk a center, then it's Dirk.
So just a shout out, by the way, because what's his name? Because Brandon Cruz is in here. This is like his birthday, not his birthday, but this is what he looks forward to. I think we have plate racing this weekend.
Really?
At Talladega, I think, which basically means that it's like a Wreckfest shit show, and nothing makes Brandon happier than NASCAR being a Wreckfest shit show. So I appreciate him taking a little time to come in here, and this is those are the funnest freaking slates to play, because you literally don't care who's driving the car you're playing. You're just basically playing positions on the racetrack. And it's a lot of fun, and it's kind of a weird sweat because you literally can't look at the leaderboard till like the last like 4 laps of the race, pretty much. I mean, like you just sit there the whole race, and whatever it says, like what you're winning is just totally irrelevant. Okay, because all you're doing is you're waiting for this big wreck to happen, and every year you think it's just this is going to be the year that it doesn't happen, and I'm going to play guys near like the front. I'm just going to fade everybody. Everybody says you're supposed to not do this, and this is the year that it's not going to happen. It just always does. Everybody wipes out, and then you see how you're doing. It's so much fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm going to address a couple quick. Oh, by the way, Brandon had a nice win the other night. He
I saw that.
Nice, good job, buddy.
I saw that.
I'm going to say really quick that so the back-to-back 40-minute games from Bogdanovic. My only issue with Bogdanovic here is that he doesn't have to ever do anything while he's on the court, and he's going to be, my guess is in the higher buy-ins, like 65, 70% owned. And when you have a guy who's shooting reliant, being that high owned, it just doesn't feel great. So I'm trying to get away from that play personally, even though do I expect him to get there at 6K? Yeah, I do. But do I have to lock in a guy, and I'm trying to play a little bit off the chalk here with other avenues. And if they blow them out, yeah, he could be a big part of that. I do have some of them, so I'm not going to say I'm not going to touch him or anything like that, but I just would rather go different directions. I like the Brandon Clark question from Nick. I think Brandon Clark so last time around, everybody had him early in the day, especially as like, this guy's a lock. This is a little, they're overreacting a little bit to what happened in game one. Now that they're kind of not overreacting and that he's going to probably be in the low 20s ownership wise, love the Brandon Clark play. Brandon Clark versus Monty Morris. I know they're different positions. That's an interesting, I think Morris more often gets to 24 fantasy points or somewhere around there, 20 plus. And I think Brandon Clark has the better chance to get to 30 plus. So do with that what you will. They're going to be similarly owned, probably low 20s on both of them. And I think that Brandon Clark is a really solid play. Just my builds are leading me slightly in different directions.
Somebody just get ruled out of something. Hold on.
The only problem is, Nick, with the mentioning good bench energy off the bench. Every single one of these guys off the bench for Memphis. Memphis literally has 8 guys they have off the bench that all are energy, incredibly talented. Memphis is, their bench would be like they wouldn't be a playoff team. They would need like 1 star to play with them. But if you put 1 star with the Memphis bench, that team is not only a playoff team, but they're like a competitive playoff team. That's how good their bench is. Between Clark and Melton is phenomenal. Tyus Jones, we see what he does when he starts. Zaire Williams is going to be a big part of the future of Memphis's plans. He's just a kid right now. They've just got a really, really deep bench, and they've got you don't usually see 12 guys projected to play in a playoff game, right? Sheets like at a 1-1 series. It's pretty crazy. Brandon Cruz has confirmed that you are correct. These are his favorite weekends.
Yep.
All right. How did everybody do on the day slate? Anybody have anything happen? I saw some good lineups in the Discord, but unfortunately didn't quite close out the win. We had our boy Mark beating 98,000 people, or he was in 9th place with 98,000 people, just couldn't quite get there. But that was another great one.
Really? Wow.
He keeps coming close, man. He's gonna hit one. He's gonna hit a big one.
And he is somebody who I literally want to win more than me.
He's someone other than me and you. Well, other than me. Even including me most of the time. I actually want Mark to win. What am I talking about? Yeah. Although it would have been 100% Mark 3 weeks ago, but since I'm going through this horrible downswing,
I get it.
I want to get a little bit of a win.
But the good thing is Mark wouldn't mind getting second, so that's good.
There we go. Okay, yeah. And you know what? I'll take second to Mark. That I would do. There's Mark in the chat. Thoughts on Dane and Dylan Brooks? They are exactly. There's nothing that's going to be a different situation. They're good plays every slate. They both have the only thing that worries me a little bit for Bane is that I do think Brooks takes away from him a little bit, and his production has not been the same in games where Brooks has played, because it just gets to be too many mouths to feed sometimes. So I wouldn't play if I played the two of them. You certainly can't play the two of them with Ja, I don't think, because that would be really, really asking for trouble, because they can't all have that much usage. Like the usage between the three of them would have to equal like 100, and that means nobody else touches the ball. I don't think that's going to happen. So I have Brooks and Bane behind Jaren Jackson Jr. That's the way I've got that. They're all in the similar price tier. Bane and Brooks both project better. Yet even as he struggled and he's had foul trouble, Jaren Jackson Jr. has still outproduced them and has a great history against this Minnesota team in his brief career. So I'm going to go with the guy who's lower owned, been more productive, projects worse, but I think is actually being misprojected. And I will take the over on Jaren Jackson Jr. playing 28 minutes tonight. I think he plays 30 plus.
Sounds good to me.
But again, I certainly wouldn't criticize anybody for playing Bane and Dylan Brooks. There's nothing wrong with those two guys.
Well, guess what? By the knock on the door, I have determined that it's dinner time.
Oh.
So I am going out.
Okay.
Hope Bobby gets first and Mark second. I'll take third.
There we go.
And we'll have who's the last guy? Nick Nelson. You can get fourth, and then Brandon Cruz will get fifth. That's the prediction on tonight's slate.
There we go. Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
I'm cutting out.
All right, take it easy, Sheets.
Okay.
Have a good night. Any more questions, guys? Can I get your? Okay, so Anthony Edwards is. Look, it's a great. Here's the problem I have with Edwards. I love Edwards, and we all know this. I tried to force him in a million times. You feel so silly the times of this season where I was like, he's my priority. He scored 17 fantasy points. But then the next time I would say it, he'd score 65 fantasy points. He has an incredibly wide range of outcomes. And I think he's awesome. And I think he's taking the next step. I love the idea of playing him tonight. The only issue I'm having with it is his ownership versus his average results, right? When you get a guy who's fairly high owned, who's got a wide range of outcomes, it starts to make a guy. We saw it with Steph, who people, Steph is obviously a great player and a consistent overall producer, but his fantasy games are not that way. And he's always priced like he is that guy. And people also like to play him. So all season long, I was sort of, it's sort of like the same argument I kept making to get off Steph. Would it surprise me if Edwards had scored 70 fantasy points tonight? Not even a little bit, not even a little bit, but at what percent ownership? Could he also score 30 fantasy points at 8,200? Absolutely. And I think that's a very real possibility. So that's where you run into it. You also have the other issue of we have another guy at 8K who has to do all the work on his team, Jalen Brunson. So if you're trying to decide between those guys, Brunson certainly makes more sense. Now, Brunson's ownership is going to be higher as well. And, you'd say, oh, Brunson does usually have the upside. Well, he put up 65 in the last game. Without Luka, he certainly does have enough upside. So it's a tough conversation. I decided to go with the lowest owned of the studs for Minnesota, and calling him a stud might be a reach, but I'm going to go with the D'Angelo Russell play. I will have some Anthony Edwards, but I think that the only reason he's not higher on my list is because of the range of outcomes and the fact that he's going to be owned. So I decided to take the other guy with the high range of outcomes who's cheaper, but who's not going to be owned, and that's D'Angelo Russell. So that's my sort of thinking behind that one. Mitchell or Edwards? Mitchell's the better median play. Edwards in the better game environment. So I think Mitchell is the better play. I think Edwards, like I said, is just the range of outcomes. There's no way to tell what night some guy's going to go 7 for 25 or if he's going to go 16 for 20, and Anthony Edwards has both of those things in his bag for sure. So that's where it is. Oh yeah. I do listen to Bill Simmons. I know how much he loves him. By the way, I haven't missed a Bill Simmons podcast. This is kind of embarrassing. It probably 2 years since pre-pandemic, probably. All right, buddy. Good to hear, Nick. So that's what I've got. And look, if you want to at me later and say, well, Mitchell, oh, look, Edwards outscored him by this. None of it's going to surprise me. I'm just saying for the average outcome, I would expect, especially in a game like this, it to be the Mitchell game. Going back to Minnesota could be great for Edwards, but it could be the Cat night. It could be the Russell night. It's what we talk about all the time. And I think you could make money with Minnesota all year long, every game. If you just took the lowest owned of those three, you're going to hit sometimes. You know what I mean? And you don't need to win every night. You're not trying to make it so you can win every night, but when you win, you want to hit the big one. I do like Barton. Yes, I like Barton. I'm not getting to any Bullock. He's playing 7 bazillion minutes. I have to take an angle, right? Like, so while sure, Dallas doesn't need to get blown out here. I'm going to play that angle though, because I need to have something that game script that makes sense for my lineup build. My lineup build is based on Dallas getting blown out tonight, in which case that means Bullock probably isn't playing very well if he's playing at all. And not to mention, I mean, it takes this guy 45 minutes to get 25 fantasy points. It's just not that exciting to me. I would rather, if I was going to take the guy in that range that Will Barton's a little more expensive, so maybe that's not the best example. The guy who I would say is maybe a good example would be Patrick Beverley. Certainly can be not productive himself sometimes, but I think especially going back first game in Minnesota, he's going to be fired up. Maybe doesn't get 2 foul calls on him right away like he sometimes does because he's playing at home. I'm gonna take the Beverley side over a guy like Bullock. I'm gonna spend down for Monty Morris over a guy like Bullock, but doesn't mean I don't like Bullock. It just means that's what I'm doing for what it's worth. Can Aaron Gordon have a bounce back game? Now we're getting into Aaron Gordon has given us no reason at all that we could even like consider him viable, but that's what he does. And then he comes out of nowhere and puts up like 45. What's weird is that because his price dropped, his ownership projection and his point total, like he's projected across the industry with an average, if you took all the sites, about 26 fantasy points. So far in the 2 games, he's had 14 and 19. But this game is at home. This game should stay closer, should get more run. So I'm not saying that these projections are wrong, that he won't score exactly 26 fantasy points or a little higher. But I just don't. I'm going to be on the side of if he's going to be higher owned than some of these other guys that I'm talking about, I'm just not going to do it. If he's going to be the same, Beverly right now is projected to be, what is Beverly compared to him? Now Beverly's projected to be 30%. He's supposed to be 10. I think it's fair. I mean, look, everybody's in play who's going to be out there for minutes, but Aaron Gordon has certainly given us no reason to believe in him at all. It would just be taking a flyer based on the fact that the guy will be on the court. He's athletic and a little bit of a boost, I guess. Jokic is the top overall play. Yeah, I that's partly why I'm paying down for these schmoes, these little schlubs. I do like Jokic a ton. I'm having a very hard time not having Jokic in my lineups. I will have some non-Jokic lineups, but I think Jokic has a big night tonight. I think Denver stays competitive. I'm not going to say they win a game, but I think they stay competitive. All right, guys, with that, I'm probably going to get out of here because I don't think there's much more to talk about. I'm going to edit my lineup, so it might be quiet for 1 minute, but go ahead and drop in any thoughts that you guys have, and I'm happy to talk about any of that stuff with you guys. I just want to make a couple quick changes here. Oh, Aaron Gordon. So here's my answer to Aaron Gordon would be Andrew Wiggins. He's 300 more. He actually is. He can have a bad game too, but for the most part, has a pretty steady range of outcomes because he does rebound the ball. He can sort of do little bits of everything, and he's going to play 30 plus minutes. And Gordon hasn't. So that's where I'm at. I do like the taking a little flyer, like maybe take 1 flyer on Gordon or something, but I'm not going to be overly heavy on it. And just to go back to the earlier Kleba and Brandon Clark thing, I think I would play Brandon Clark ahead of Kleba, factoring in ownership. I think Kleba is going to end up. Let me just see. Like Kleba made 8 threes in the last game. Now that's great that you have a guy who can make 8 threes, but I don't know. I have Kleba at like 50+% owned, and I have Brandon Clark at 20% owned. I think Brandon Clark gets there pretty much the same amount of time that Kleba does. So I like the Brandon Clark over Kleba if you're going to have that one. No interest in Kyle Anderson whatsoever. I don't think that's a good play. I don't even know what we think of for his minutes. What have I got here? Somewhere between, he is 4,300. No, I don't like Kyle Anderson. And I don't think there's really like a game path that gets him a bunch of run unless like they're getting crushed and he's leading a bench unit on a huge charge. But I'm not getting to any Kyle Anderson myself. That's where I am. You guys, Anderson. Anderson is not it for me. Thanks a lot, Nick. I appreciate the kind words. And hopefully we can take one of these playoff ones down. The playoff betting has been going really well. I'm going to reiterate what my bets are for tonight because I like Memphis to cover the 2 points in Minnesota. It's 2.5. it's the one I'm feel the least good about. I definitely think Minnesota is a team that's built to be able to, if there was one team that they could match up with in the first round, they could be competitive with, it would be the Grizzlies. But I also think you're going to see when the Grizzlies win, I don't think it's going to be, I don't think they're going to win a bunch of like 3 and 4 point games. I think they're going to win by double digits. And I think when Minnesota wins, it's going to be a little closer. I think the Jazz are going to kill Dallas tonight, or at least cover that 7 and now it's an 8-point spread. I really think this is the game where Utah shows up and really plays well. And then I like the Warriors to beat the Nuggets, but I don't have a strong take on that. The strongest take I have is the Dallas Utah game. So if let's say I was betting $500 tonight and I just had to bet one team to cover the spreads, I would put 300 of it on Utah, and then I would put the other 100 on the other 2 games that I like. Yeah, on the Memphis side, and then I probably put 150 on the Memphis side, and then another 50 on the Warriors, something like that. Yeah, but oh, you know what, Nick? Thanks a lot, man. It's really kind. But also, like, let me know, and I'll drop in my tier thoughts for you. Like, if you want me to start listing out, throw me some tier questions throughout the day in Discord. I'm happy to answer those questions. Of course, Brandon, happy to see you, man. Always. Let's get some money. Let's make some money tonight. Just don't tell me you have Bertans exposure, because if you green light him, I will have to also. Okay, not on this slate. I don't have any Bertans. I went out on a limb. I said there's going to be one game in this series where he scores like 10x and has 30 fantasy points. I don't think tonight is the night. It's a bold call, I know, but I think that there could be one game in this series where you see him get there. Maybe it is the night, but I'm certainly not going to be playing him. I'm siding with the other 3K guys more than I am him. And with that said, guys, let's freaking go and let's make some money tonight. And we'll hopefully see one of you guys or myself or all of us or combined at the top of the leaderboard. Good luck, everybody.